Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Ben Mahari here, represent Mahari Nation Sports Podcast. Much love to the entire LDBC and the entire basketball community. You understand what I'm saying? Just a little quick announcement. My regular show of Basketball Conversations is going to be moved from Friday nights to Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. So just make a little quick note on that reminder. I will not be doing my show on Friday nights, but it's going to be moved to Saturday nights at the same time, 9 p.m. Central Time. Just thought I'd let you guys know off the rip, okay? So, to the business at hand here, guys. So obviously the Clippers lost today and now are trailing three game and now are facing a game seven after leading 3 games to one in the series. Let me tell you something right now. If the Clippers go on to lose, not only the blame should go on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, but Doc Rivers deserves much of the blame. And he needs he I'm telling you right now, if they lose game seven on Tuesday, he needs to be fired. All right. And this is not the first time that this has happened, okay? You have to grind all the way back to the 2015 playoffs against the Houston Rockets, okay? Remember, the Rockets were trailing by as many as 19 points, in that game 6 in Staples, right? The Clippers were about 14 minutes away from advancing to the Western Conference Finals, similar to even today. And what happened was unprecedented. Um, the Rockets finished off that game in 2015, going on a 49 to 15 run over the last 14 minutes. During that stretch, the Rockets shot 54% from the field and shot 8 of 13 from 3-point range. All right. And to add even more context to what I'm talking about here, guys, okay, jo- Josh Smith scored 14 points in that fourth quarter, and Corey Brewer off the bench played the entire fourth quarter and scored 15 points. And you ask yourself, well, where was James Harden at that time? Well, Kevin McHale, the then coach of the Rockets at the time, had the courage to pretty much bench James Harden for that entire fourth quarter, and pretty much letting the guys who started the fourth quarter finish out the game. And boy, did that position worked out perfectly, right? They basically destroyed the Clippers 40-15 in that fourth quarter, right? And the Clippers couldn't buy a shot. They basically shot 15 to 6. They actually shot 19% in that same time frame, and they missed 15 of their last 16 shots. Basically, one of the worst quarters of basketball you could ever see in NBA history, right? Now, you fast forward to today against the Denver Nuggets, right? What happened at that time was is that the Clippers ran up the score. They pretty much was up by as many as 19 points against the Denver Nuggets, right? And as usual, the Nuggets, were always off to a slow start. So they led back into the locker room down by 15, right? And Mike Malone delivered an emotional and probably motivational speech to really fire the guys up to get themselves back into the game. And what was said in that locker room, it worked out well because the Clippers were basically they didn't show up after the halftime break. And the Nuggets turned on the switch and outscored the Clippers 64-35 in the second half. All right. Let me tell you something, okay? In the last two halves of both games 5 and 6, and I checked this out on ESPN, right? The Nuggets have outscored the Clippers 131-84 in those last two halves of both games 5 and 6. They shot 61% from the field compared to LA's 31. They shot 57% from 3-point range compared to the Clippers 28%. And pretty much they defended them pretty well. In fact, in contested field goals, they Nuggets have shot them 52% to LA's 26, right? So right now, the Clippers right now are under heavy scrutiny right now, and definitely they should. I was actually checking out some of the stuff that was said on Twitter. Man, the media is ripping them to shreds. All right, let me tell you something. If the Clippers lose Game 7 on Tuesday night, that's two straight times in Doc Rivers' tenure as Clippers head coach that he's blown a 3-1 lead in the second round. All right. And I believe that this one is going to be the one that's going to hurt even more. All right. 2015 was real bad, right? It was real, real bad. And I felt that he should have been fired on the spot for blowing that lead, right? But the Clippers stood pat and stuck with them, right? Even through all the roster changes. But this one right here, with all that talent you have with Lou Williams, with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and the rest of them guys, right? If they lose game 7 on Tuesday, Doc Rivers needs to go. All right. The time is now for him to make a coaching change. And I think that Doc Rivers needs to go. All right. Listen, no, that whole wave of that 2008 championship is wavered off now. This is a new time now. All right. Doc Rivers has been riding on the coattails of that 2008 championship for a long time, right? And he was able to get away with it. But unfortunately, this cannot be understated. This cannot be understated enough. Doc Rivers has been terrible of halftime adjustments, right? The Nuggets have done their job pretty much adjusting out of the halftime break by doing a lot more screen and roll, doing a lot more post ups with Djokovic, and then the double teams come, and then that's why they've been able to get a lot of open threes because of it, right? Right now, the Nuggets are playing with much more confidence. And let me tell you something. Doc Rivers had lack of halftime adjustments has been the biggest Achilles heel for the Clippers. All right, you look at this team, you think to yourself like this team should be better than how they're playing, but it's like it's like when they up by a big margin, right? They just said, okay, we're up by a big margin, we can turn off the switch, and the other team is not going to come back. In the playoffs, you can't do that because you're going against good teams that have a different switch and have a different gear to themselves, right? The same issues were occurring against the Dallas Mavericks, right? Remember in game 4, like I said, they were up by 25, and then they allowed Luka Doncic to get going, which led to his famous game winning shot, right? Now you're back into the same familiar situation. Now you're back to where you were in 2015, up 3 games to 1, and now you've blown the last 2 games to close out the series. This is bad on Doc Rivers, guys. Listen, he's been able to get away with it with some of the key injuries to some of his guys, top players like the Blake Griffins and the Chris Pauls of the world and stuff like that. But you cannot listen. You can't get away with this anymore now. All right, this cannot be understated enough. If Doc Rivers and his Clippers don't get it done in Game 7, he needs to go. All right. I'm the way I rank Doc Rivers is he's a good coach, but that's where I put him there. He's kind of a good coach at best. He's not an elite coach like a Greg Popovich or Phil Jackson, those kind of coaches. All right. I pretty much consider him a good coach at best. But I'm telling you guys, his lack of halftime adjustments has really killed the team in the last 2 ball games. All right. Because of the stats I read to you, the Nuggets have pretty much outplayed them in both second halves of games 5 and 6. This is unacceptable, considering how deeply talented this team is and how well they play defensively. All right. And Kawhi Leonard deserves some blame too. His subpar performances on the defensive end have really killed, the Clippers' morale on both ends of the floor. All right. The missed shots occur in games. But what I saw in that game 6 was that the Clippers lost their competitive spirit. They didn't compete. And Kawhi, I was looking at him like Kawhi's got to do something to get his team energized. Lead the way as the finals MVP, the 2-time finals MVP that you are. But he didn't do that. And I look at Doc Rivers and I tell to myself, why isn't Doc Rivers doing something to try to stop the bleeding? Right? And it's like Doc Rivers is just like absent when this team needs him the most. All right. It's just frustrating because you know that Doc Rivers is a better coach than this. But his over time, these same flameouts in the playoffs keep happening as the coach of the Clippers. And if they don't get it done on Tuesday, if they somehow, some way, find a way to lose against the Nuggets right now, and also a little stat too. This is the second time in these playoffs that the Nuggets have came back from a 3-1 deficit to force a 7th, right? Listen, dating back into last postseason, the Nuggets have played 4 straight series that have gone to 7 games. This is the first time this happened in NBA history, in NBA postseason history. And currently at this point in elimination games, the Nuggets are 5-0. So pretty much at this point, the Nuggets are playing with house money right now because they know if they lose, they got next year because they have the confidence to believe now that they can beat some of the elite teams in the NBA. But if they find a way to upset the Clippers, this will be a very big upset. I know that most of the mainstream media is going to try to downplay it, but no, man. With the expectations and the talent of this team, this will be a monumental upset. All right, big time upset. All right, Doc Rivers better do something. He better make amends, not just for 2015, but he better make amends for the last two games. It's all on the line for the Clippers and for Doc Rivers. If they don't get it done on Thursday, I say on Tuesday, I'm pretty much convinced to say that the Clippers need to let him go. All right, that's two times you've blown 3-1 leads and you've been sent home packing. No, man, you cannot let that happen. You cannot let that happen. All right, this is all on the line on Tuesday, and if they lose, I'm gonna go in hard. All right, and I will gonna say that he deserves to be let go if they lose in Game 7. All right, but that's pretty much how I feel about this whole thing, man. So tell me what you guys think in the comment section.